It wasn't the smell of Christopher's famous dish that stopped my heart. It was the text message from my own mother, Lena. Christopher was busy at the stove, humming some ridiculous R&B tune I used to love. He was wearing the apron, the perfect husband facade, playing the role of the devoted provider. He often bragged that cooking for me was his highest privilege, not a chore. I sat there, watching him, my mind already heavy with doubts, the strange absences, the unexplained charges. His phone lay silent on the marble. That dark screen was a velvet curtain hiding years of secrets. Then Christopher turned, wearing his bright, practiced smile, asking me to taste the sauce. He went back to checking the spices, totally focused on his food. Right at that exact, terrible moment, the screen flared. No sound, just a cold blue flash. My eyes jumped to it. The phrase that appeared was enough to shatter my reality into dust. The sender was, "My mother, Lena." The message said simply, "I enjoy it. My husband. My mother." My heart didn't just break, it petrified. The shock was absolute. This was the most taboo, the most disgusting betrayal possible. I quietly picked up the phone. My hands were cold but steady, fueled by pure resentment. I typed a reply, not opening the message, cementing the trap. "I'm looking forward to Saturday. Send me the details." I hit send. I watched the 2 small checks appear. A silent, determined smile, more like a grimace, crossed my face. They had just signed their death warrant. Before we continue with the story, make sure you subscribe. Tell us, what time is it where you are right now, and what city are you watching from? The moment Christopher finally went to bed, feigning exhaustion after his performance, I went to work. I was no longer a wife in mourning, I was a forensic investigator, and the crime scene was my own bedroom. My goal was not to find debt or documents, it was to find the cheap, painful, physical evidence of a sexual betrayal involving Lena. I started with his briefcase. I meticulously checked all the usual places, the side pockets, the bottom lining, finding nothing but professional papers. Then, tucked beneath a stack of old quarterly reports, I found it. A small, dark velvet pouch. My stomach turned to ice. I pulled out a receipt from a high-end jewelry boutique, dated just 3 weeks ago. The item listed was a delicate silver locket. He hadn't bought me jewelry since our anniversary last year. My hands, trembling slightly now, checked his sock drawer, where I found the matching appraisal certificate. The certificate listed the inscription, a small, intimate nickname only my father, now deceased, used for Lena. The betrayal deepened, turning heartbroken resentment into a searing, disgusting realization. He was not only betraying me, but desecrating the memory of my father. I moved to his travel bag. I found a small, laminated photo card, a membership to an exclusive, private spa and resort outside the city. The membership was registered under both their names, Christopher and Lena. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a sustained, sickening, and expensive relationship funded by our shared marital account. The shock of seeing the receipts, the coded inscription, and the shared membership was overwhelming. I didn't cry for the loss of my husband. I cried for the death of my entire family structure. How could 2 people, the man who swore to love me and the woman who gave me life, conspire in such a base, taboo, and emotionally destructive way? The profound, exhausted sadness was suffocating. I resented the fact that they had dragged my name through such filth. I carefully photographed every single piece of evidence, securing my overwhelming legal advantage. Christopher was asleep just feet away, oblivious to the fact that his cheap, disgusting secret had just purchased my total freedom. The sadness was enormous, but the clarity was my shield. I would ensure their shame was absolute. My fight was now for my honor, and I would leave nothing behind. The dinner felt like an interrogation in slow motion, though only I knew the crime and the judge. Christopher was desperate to prove everything was normal, his laughter gratingly loud, his compliments on the food strained and false. I sat across the table, maintaining my unnatural composure, my eyes fixed on him, analyzing every twitch and flicker of fear. I took a small sip of wine, then initiated the probe. "That reminds me, darling. I saw a charge for that exclusive spa resort in the accounts. You've been working so hard. Did you manage to treat yourself to a quick weekend trip?" He hesitated, his fork clattering against the expensive porcelain plate. "The spa? Oh yes, just a solo retreat for a client presentation. A lot of pressure." He tried to smile, but it looked like a terrified grimace. I pressed gently, leaning into the lie. "But I thought you were spending so much time with Lena recently. You never mentioned the spa to her or that you needed a quiet weekend away from her." Christopher visibly stiffened. He quickly dropped the topic of the spa, attempting to redirect the conversation to his work deadlines, but I refused to let it go. "And how is Lena's apartment remodeling coming along?" I asked, my voice laced with false sweetness, referencing the lie he often used to cover his absences. "Is that why you've needed to miss dinner a few nights this month? To help with the complex paperwork?" He grabbed the water glass, his hand shaking slightly. "The paperwork is complex, Sally. Just a lot of details. Lena needs my professional advice to handle the contractors." Professional advice. Advice that required shared spa memberships and expensive jewelry. His lie was cheap, transparent, and sickening. The profound sadness of the betrayal washed over me again, heavy and relentless. I resented him for thinking I was this stupid, and I resented my mother for making me feel so cheap. I finally excused myself, claiming a headache that was far too real. While Christopher nervously cleared the table, convinced he had successfully lied his way through the evening, I retreated to the bedroom. My hands, now steady with purpose, typed the urgent message to my lawyer friend. I didn't write an emotional rant. I wrote a demand for war. "Rosa, Saturday is the deadline. The betrayal is worse than we thought. It's romantic. It's my mother. Prepare the demand for full annihilation." I placed the phone down, my heart heavy with the certainty that the man I married was nothing more than a criminal in love with my mother. My resolve hardened. I would trade every tear of heartbreak for a single shred of victory. I met Rosa in her office the next morning, the glass skyscraper feeling as cold and unforgiving as my own heart. I didn't come for comfort, I came for a tactical briefing. I pushed the envelope containing the grim evidence across her polished mahogany desk. This time, there was no hiding the truth. The flirty texts, the shared spa membership under both Christopher's and Lena's names, and the jewelry receipt bearing my mother's humiliating private nickname. Rosa opened the envelope, and her professional facade, usually impenetrable, cracked instantly. Her eyes, usually sharp and calculating, widened with genuine, profound horror as she sorted through the photos. She was speechless, navigating the sickening reality of my husband and my mother. "Sally, this is—" Rosa finally managed, her voice hushed. "This is beyond anything I've seen. This isn't just infidelity. It's a catastrophic family betrayal." I looked at the horror on my lawyer's face and felt a sick satisfaction. "Forget the emotion, Rosa. What's the leverage?" She quickly regained her lawyer's composure, her gaze hardening. "The leverage is absolute. In a standard affair, we split assets cleanly. With this, we have overwhelming moral and reputational leverage. Christopher is a man who relies entirely on his conservative, family man image for his career and social standing. The revelation that he is having a prolonged sexual affair with his own mother-in-law is professional poison. It's social suicide." Rosa confirmed that the priority had shifted entirely. We weren't aiming for a fair divorce. We were aiming for annihilation. The sheer taboo nature of the betrayal meant we could threaten immediate public and corporate exposure, forcing Christopher to agree to any financial terms we dictated, no matter how ruinous to him. She mentioned executives like Christensen and Rader, men whose social standing would never tolerate such filth near their firm. I felt a profound, exhausted sadness, realizing I was using the destruction of my family as a legal weapon. But the necessity was absolute. They had left me no choice. This strategy wasn't about spite. It was about ensuring my survival and establishing a clean, independent future. I looked at the horrifying evidence and felt a cold, determined resolve. They had destroyed my family, and now I would use their sin to purchase my clean escape. Saturday arrived, heavy and suffocating with anticipation. Christopher was a mess, hiding his nerves behind constant, shallow bursts of activity. He kept glancing at his phone, confirming the details of the 4 p.m. rendezvous with Lena. He was utterly convinced that by 4 o'clock he would be alone in the house, ready for his sordid arrangement. I maintained my composure, every movement calculated. Around 3 o'clock, I put my escape plan into motion. "I have a terrible headache, Christopher," I murmured, leaning on the excuse I used when sending him out before. "I must get that specific migraine medicine. I won't be long." He immediately offered a weak argument, his fear of being alone momentarily outweighed by his fear of my presence during the meeting, but I shut him down with a firm, dismissive tone. "No, darling. You stay here and relax. You need to be fresh for your Saturday night." I watched the brief, disgusting flicker of relief cross his face. His path was clear. I gave him a quick, meaningless kiss and walked out, taking the elevator down. I didn't drive to the pharmacy. Instead, I stayed within the building, finding a discreet spot in the service stairwell on the floor above, settling into the heavy, chilling silence. My heart was a frozen stone, counting down the seconds until the arrival of the woman who shared my DNA and stole my husband. The wait was agonizing, filled with the deep, resentful sadness of realizing how completely these two people had conspired against me. At precisely 3:58 p.m., the elevator doors opened. Out stepped Lena. She wasn't carrying a briefcase or a casserole dish. She was wearing an expensive, tailored dress with a nervous energy that screamed of an imminent, intimate appointment. She walked swiftly to my apartment door and gave the prearranged, soft signal knock. I moved immediately, swiftly, and silently. I unlocked the door from the inside and pulled it open, standing like an icy sentinel in my own home. My presence alone was the first, devastating shot fired. I walked up to the door and pulled it open, my expression a mask of pure, cutting judgment. Lena froze, her eyes wide with a terror that transcended mere surprise. Her expensive tailored dress meant for romance instantly looked cheap and stained. "Sally? You're not supposed to be here," she stammered, raising a hand to her chest. "I know exactly where I am, Mother," I replied, my voice a flat line of pure, surgical resentment. "The question is, why are you here, dressed like that, for a 4 p.m. rendezvous with my husband, Christopher?" I stepped aside, forcing her into the living room, denying her the dignity of standing in the hallway. I didn't offer a seat or a drink. I kept her standing in the center of the room, vulnerable. "Let's dispense with the excuses about paperwork," I commanded, walking slowly around her, my eyes never leaving her terrified face. I saw the receipts for the jewelry. I saw the locket with the intimate inscription, the one my father gave you. I saw the shared spa membership under your names. This is not a misunderstanding. This is a shameful, disgusting sexual affair. The accusation was a physical blow. Lena's sophisticated composure instantly shattered. Her face crumpled, not with remorse, but with the crushing agony of being caught in the most taboo of secrets. She began to weep, deep, guttural sobs that did nothing to soften my frozen heart. "It wasn't supposed to happen this way," she choked out, her voice raw. "It started so simply. He paid attention. He made me feel wanted. I know I shouldn't have—" "Wanted?" I repeated, the word tasting like ash. "You stole the one thing I built, and you did it with the man who swore to protect me." I felt the profound, wrenching sadness of the double betrayal. The man I loved and the woman who birthed me, united in a violation so complete it felt biblical. "How long, Lena?" I demanded. "Tell me the whole truth, now." She confessed to everything, the secret weekends, the luxurious gifts, the months-long affair. She admitted that she chose her own petty, selfish desires over my happiness, sacrificing my marriage for her fleeting validation. My eyes burned, but I refused to cry. The heartbroken resentment was too deep for tears. The truth, delivered by my own mother's shamed lips, was worse than any fantasy I had feared. I now had the full, repulsive confession, and with that the stage was set for Christopher's return. The legal documents were not a request for divorce. They were a death warrant for Christopher's professional and social life. Rosa drafted the settlement demand with surgical precision, detailing not only the financial split, but outlining the shocking evidence of Christopher's sexual affair with Lena. The accompanying letter, delivered by a private courier, made the threat absolute. Sign immediately, or the full disgusting story, including photographs of the jewelry and the shared spa membership, would be delivered personally to the most socially conservative leaders of his firm, executives like Christensen and Rader. Christopher's own lawyer called Rosa, frantic and defeated. He argued the terms were barbaric, insisting that leaving Christopher with virtually nothing was professionally ruinous. Rosa's response was ice-cold and final. My client is securing compensation for a moral and emotional violation that no amount of money can truly fix. The only thing protecting your client from career suicide and total public disgrace is his signature on those papers. The pressure was immense. Christopher, stripped of his lies and his perfect facade, knew the revelation of a prolonged affair with his own mother-in-law would instantly cost him everything. He was trapped by his own sin. The shame, the sheer taboo of his actions, was the ultimate weapon against him. He couldn't fight. He was facing the total annihilation of his life. After 48 hours of agonizing silence, the signed papers arrived. He conceded everything. The house, the majority of the savings, the investments, all were transferred to me. He walked away with only debt, his shame, and the ruins of his professional reputation. I looked at the signature, a crooked, desperate scribble, and felt a profound, heavy satisfaction. The betrayal had caused so much sadness and pain, but the final, absolute victory was mine. I had paid for my freedom with his ruin, and it felt like the only path to the true happiness I deserved. The traitors were silenced, and I was free. I left the apartment without a backward glance, Christopher's pathetic sobs still echoing behind me. I drove straight to Rosa, the heartbroken resentment now cold and refined into a cutting need for vengeance. There was no room for tears now, only strategy remained. Rosa listened to the report, the full confession, the evidence of gifts, the shared memberships, her face grim but focused. When I finished, she didn't offer comfort, she delivered the verdict. The sexual element involving your mother, Lena, changes everything, Sally, Rosa stated, pushing her glasses up her nose. This isn't just grounds for divorce. This gives us overwhelming moral high ground that no judge will dare question. More importantly, it gives us absolute leverage over Christopher. She explained that his entire persona, his social standing, his reputation among conservative executives like Christensen and Rader depended entirely on the secret staying buried. The threat of public exposure of the taboo affair was far more terrifying to him than any financial penalty. We demand everything, Rosa continued, her voice hardening. He violated the most fundamental trust, and we use that moral high ground to seize complete control of the financial split. We don't negotiate, we demand a financially ruinous settlement immediately. My heart felt a deep, profound sadness, realizing I was using the destruction of my family as a legal weapon. But the necessity was absolute. They had left me no choice. This strategy wasn't about spite, it was about ensuring my survival and establishing a clean, independent future. I wanted to be free of the stain of both Christopher's lust and Lena's betrayal. Rosa started preparing the initial documents immediately. The demands were brutal, targeting nearly every joint asset and demanding repayment for all the marital funds Christopher had wasted on his mistress, my mother. This was the reckoning. We would use the overwhelming shame of their sin to purchase my clean, final escape. The legal documents were not a request for divorce. They were a death warrant for Christopher's professional and social life. Rosa drafted the settlement demand with surgical precision, detailing not only the financial split, but outlining the shocking evidence of Christopher's sexual affair with Lena. The accompanying letter, delivered by a private courier, made the threat absolute. Sign immediately, or the full disgusting story, including photographs of the jewelry and the shared spa membership, would be delivered personally to the most socially conservative leaders of his firm, executives like Christensen and Rader. Christopher's own lawyer called Rosa frantic and defeated. He argued the terms were barbaric, insisting that leaving Christopher with virtually nothing was professionally ruinous. Rosa's response was ice-cold and final. "My client is securing compensation for a moral and emotional violation that no amount of money can truly fix. The only thing protecting your client from career suicide and total public disgrace is his signature on those papers." The pressure was immense. Christopher, stripped of his lies and his perfect facade, knew the revelation of a prolonged affair with his own mother-in-law would instantly cost him everything. He was trapped by his own sin. The shame, the sheer taboo of his actions, was the ultimate weapon against him. He couldn't fight. He was facing the total annihilation of his life. After 48 hours of agonizing silence, the signed papers arrived. He conceded everything. The house, the majority of the savings, the investments, all were transferred to me. He walked away with only debt, his shame, and the ruins of his professional reputation. I looked at the signature, a crooked, desperate scribble, and felt a profound, heavy satisfaction. The betrayal had caused so much sadness and pain, but the final, absolute victory was mine. I had paid for my freedom with his ruin, and it felt like the only path to the true happiness I deserved. The traitors were silenced, and I was free. The divorce was finalized quietly, surgically. Christopher was gone from my life, taking only the shame of his betrayal. The expensive condominium, the symbol of our shared false success, was sold instantly. With the assets recovered, I secured my half, fully protected from the financial and emotional wreckage he left behind. Christopher was left utterly destitute, stripped of his wealth and his image, buried under the debt his failed career created. Lena, the woman who chose lust over her daughter, was permanently banished. There were no emotional goodbyes, no forgiveness, only the cold, hard silence of final severance. The tie to her was severed, a final necessary cut to heal the deepest wound. I didn't seek out another opulent apartment. Instead, I chose a cozy, bright condo in a quiet neighborhood filled with light and green trees. It was smaller, but every corner felt truly mine, a space untainted by the presence of traitors. This new home was a monument to my resilience, not his vanity. I had purchased my freedom with his ruin, and the emotional cost was repaid with financial security. I met Rosa on my new balcony one evening, the city lights below sparkling clean and distant. We toasted with champagne. "To freedom, Sally," Rosa said, her voice warm with genuine pride. I clinked her glass. "To strategy, Rosa, and to knowing the price of betrayal. The pain of the double treason, my husband and my mother, will always be a scar. But it is a scar that saved me. It forced me to be stronger, faster, and more ruthless than I ever imagined. My professional life has soared since. The clarity I gained fighting for my life translated into a major promotion at my job. I am financially secure, emotionally intact, and strategically superior. I am no longer the woman defined by Christopher's false image. I am Sally, a woman who looked down the barrel of total ruin and walked away with everything. The ending is not a reconciliation, it's a complete, satisfying victory. And my new life, I enjoy it. But this ending still leaves one terrifying truth. I achieved my happiness by absolutely destroying two people, one of whom gave me life. Was the complete annihilation of the husband, purchased by the shame of the mother, truly justice, or was it simply another act of emotional devastation? Tell me what you think in the comments below, and before you go, please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next story. I appreciate your thoughts and your support.